Hi, in this video, we're going to show how we can use density to help us solve problems. Uh, Density, we have two strategies for using density conversions of unit or dimensional analysis. We can either use density as a conversion factor, and we'll discuss why in a few minutes, or we can simply use a little bit of algebra. So let's go through an example problem. And we're going to use both of these strategies so we can see how we can get the same answer in either matter. So this is an example that I have on today's PowerPoint. In this example, we're going to look at some ethanol. Ethanol is an alcohol that we would be able to use in a chemistry lab. Now, on the bottle of ethanol, has listed so on the bottle it has listed that the density of the ethanol is going to be 0.798 grams per milliliter. So that's an important piece of information. It's written on the label. We're going to treat this as a factor. It's a known amount. In other words, every milliliter of ethanol contains 0.798 grams. Conversion factor because it's written on the label and it's given to us in the laboratory. Now, ethanol is a liquid. What if we're doing a procedure and we're working in the laboratory and our lab procedure requires us to deliver 40 grams of ethanol? So the question we might ask, because it's easier to measure the volume of the liquid, what volume contains 40 grams? Okay, so there's our problem. Bottle of ethanol has listed density. The density can also be used as a conversion factor. Every milliliter of density of ethanol contains 0.798 grams. What volume of the ethanol contains 40 on it? Let's go through two strategies to solve the problem. Let's first of all use a little bit of algebra. Now, one way we can solve it is simply writing down density is equal to mass we can rearrange this just using a step of algebra and solve for volume, V, cross multiply. We can multiply each side by volume and divide by density, and we get an expression for our volume. Volume is the mass that's given divided by the density that's given. So now all we got to do is plug our numbers in here and solve for volume. Volume, 40 grams divided by the given density, 0.798. And notice we're dividing by the mass by a density, and the units of volume are in the denominator of this lower factor of density. Our answer is going to be in milliliters. If we put this into our calculator, we're going to get 50.13 milliliters. And I've limited my answer to 4 significant figures, and it's limited by the mass that we began with. This is the data that we're using. This is the number that limits our significant figures when solve the problem. This is the strategy using algebra to help us determine density. Let's show how we can also use density as a conversion factor. Some people prefer that. So remember, density tells us that 1 milliliter of ethanol has a mass of 0.798 grams. That's basically what density is telling us. So remember what we started with? We started with a mass of 40 grams. And we're trying to find the volume that provides us with that mass. And to get there, we're going to use a conversion factor. 1 milliliter contains 0.798 grams. The conversion factor that we're going to use, as we used before, as we stated, it's the conversion factor that has grams in the denominator and our given or desired unit of volume in the numerator. Grams cancel out. We should get, and we will get the same answer. We get 50.13 milliliters. So these are two ways that we can use density to help us solve problems. We can use some algebra, or we can use density as a conversion factor, such as we've done before in dimensional analysis.